Track 2.
My personal view is that when you work for a multinational company, you also have a company culture that overrides individual cultural differences that exist in different parts of the world. And if that is strong enough, then it overshadows any national barriers that exist. I think it's very important that as the company develops and grows in different countries, it needs to find a way to import the corporate culture into those countries. To me, that is the key to make it work.
Track 3.
How does the company prepare employees for work abroad?
We provide cultural training for the employee and the family, as well as some basic language training. Some of that can be done before or after the person is relocated, depending on the situation and the timing. And obviously, from a financial standpoint, you have a basic expatriate package which covers the difference in housing costs or tax costs. The whole concept from a financial standpoint is to keep the employee as if they were living in their home country. So if there are any costs that are more than what the person might have in their home country, the company pays for that. That is the general rule of the company.
Track 4.
I think the number one challenge, and I'm speaking from experience, is family considerations. I think it's always easy for the employee to make a move to improve their career, but whether that person makes the move or is successful in it, I think has a lot to do with whatever the family circumstances are. Whether the partner has a job somewhere else that they will be walking away from, or what the ages of the children are and what the move will mean to them, or if there are any health issues and so forth that might prevent someone from relocating. So, I think those are the kind of things that people look at before they make the decision to go abroad. I have lived for many years overseas, and people have asked me the question, how do you adapt to different cultures? And I say, the first thing you have to put in your mind is that you are a guest of your host country, of whatever country that you are in, whether you are living there or whether you are there on business. And you have to be open to doing things differently. It may not be done in the same way in the culture that you have moved from, but it doesn't necessarily make it wrong. It's just different.
Track 5.
When I moved back to the USA after living in Japan and Singapore, I found it much more difficult than when I moved from the USA to Asia. And that was because of my personal work experience. By that I mean in Asia I was used to a management role, where I dealt with government officials. I dealt with every aspect of the business and was kind of the CEO of my company in that particular country, and I had to make decisions quickly. And then I went back to my own country and went from making decisions, even important decisions in a relatively short period of time, and came back to a corporate situation where time stood still. It took forever to move and get someone to make a decision on things.
Track 6. Conversation 1.
If you'd like to hang your coat up, Jean-Luc, there's a rack in the corner.
Here?
Yeah. We'll just wait for Paul. He's making a cup of tea.
So, no rain here today then?
Not at the moment. The weather forecast is for nice warm weather for the next couple of days anyway.
Oh, that's good.
So it makes a change from rain, doesn't it?
Yes.
Conversation 2.
Hi, folks.
This is Baz.
Hi, Baz.
Baz, hi. Nice to meet you. I'm Maria.
Hi.
Hi, Luke. How are you?
Very well, thanks. Yourself?
Good, thanks.
Good.
Look, this is Yannick.
Hi, I am Yannick.
Nice to meet you. How are you doing?
I'm fine.
Right, have you started at all?
No, we were just talking about the traffic.
Oh, it was a pain getting here.
Oh, was it?
A lane had been closed off and no one was doing anything.
Really?
We must have been waiting for half an hour.
Oh, it's infuriating, isn't it?
It sure is.
Yes.
Conversation 3.
Hi.
Thank you for your card.
Oh, Happy New Year.
I was thinking of including a family newsletter with my card, but you know most of my news already. You know about our new grandson.
Yes, that's really wonderful. How old is he now?
Well, he's about 3 weeks old.
Oh, that's nice.
Track 7.
How's your hotel?
Fine.
The flight was okay?
Yes.
Did you get a taxi okay this morning?
Yes.
The traffic is usually okay this time of day. Would you like some coffee?
Yes, please.
Track 8.
How is your hotel?
Fine, thanks. It's a bit noisy because it's in the centre, but it's quite convenient for sightseeing if I get a chance later.
Oh, yes, you should visit the Old Town, and the restaurants are really good. Did you get a chance to go anywhere yesterday evening?
No, I didn't arrive until really late.
Oh, really? Was the flight okay?
It was all right, but we were delayed because of bad weather in Frankfurt.
Oh, that's a pity. But at least you're here now. Did you get a taxi here okay this morning?
Yes, the traffic wasn't too bad.
Good. Would you like some coffee before we start?
Oh, yes, that would be lovely. Milk and no sugar, please.
Track 9.
What have been the technological developments with the biggest impact on business over the last few years?
Well, I'd say, the one that really stands out is the internet. And that's because what the internet has done is completely play havoc with the value chains and with several different companies who are competing. So let me give you one example, which is with the newspaper industry. We used to pay £1 for a copy of the Financial Times or whichever newspaper, and then we would read the analysis and commentary and news and sport, etc. Now, for each of these things, we go to a different website. Their value chain has become completely fragmented, and they don't know how to put it back together again, and they don't know what to do with the situation. I mean, where the revenue will come from.
Track 10.
For retailing, the whole landscape of the business has changed due to the internet. As you know, you have new markets like eBay, for example. So we have consumption where there wasn't any consumption. Then we have the effect of the internet on industries even as valuable as airlines. So EasyJet and Ryanair and all these airlines would not be able to develop as businesses if they were not able to bypass travel agents through the internet and go directly to their customers.
Track 11.
Well, without the silicon chip, I'd be lost.
Definitely.
I mean, it's everywhere, isn't it?
Yes.
In mobile phones, in computers, and without them, I couldn't survive.
Absolutely.
Not the way I am, anyway. I mean, I use the computer to communicate at work with colleagues and business partners.
Yeah.
And to find information and calculate costs and make plans and all sorts of things.
Sure.
And, well, the mobile phone, without that, I'd be back in the Stone Age.
Wow.
Track 12.
Hello?
Is Mr. Wong there?
Who?
Mr. Wong.
No.
Oh, okay. Bye.
Track 13.
Orient Exports, good morning.
Could I speak to Mr. Wong, please?
I'm afraid he isn't in his office at the moment. Can I take a message?
Oh, yes. Could you ask him to call me back when he gets in?
Of course. Could I take your name and number, please?
It's Nimisha Patel.
Oh, how do you spell Nimisha?
That's Nimisha.
Okay, that's great. And the phone number?
It's 0139565.
So that's 0139565.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, Miss Patel. I'll ask Mr. Wong to call you as soon as he gets in.
Thanks very much.
That's fine.
Okay, bye.
Goodbye.
Track 14. Phone call 1.
Good morning, Best Printing.
Could I speak to Jim, please?
He's on the other line just at the moment. Who's calling?
This is David West from the Southern Bank. I'm calling about getting his signature on the documents.
Oh, right. Hold on one moment for me, could you?
Phone call 2.
Hello?
Hi, Laura. Ron here.
Oh, hi, Ron. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
That's good. What can I do for you?
I'm just giving you a buzz to discuss an email you sent me last week.
Phone call 3.
I'll send some new details on, and if you've got any questions, do give us a ring.
OK, that's great. Thanks very much.
Thanks for your time.
Nice talking to you.
OK, bye-bye.
Bye.
Track 15.
I'll send some new details on, and if you've got any questions, do give us a ring.
OK, that's great. Thanks very much.
Thanks for your time.
Nice talking to you.
OK, bye-bye.
Bye.
Track 16.
So, when would be convenient for you?
Well, I'm free today or tomorrow. Tomorrow morning would probably be better.
I'm actually all booked up for tomorrow. Would you be able to make it on Wednesday?
Let's see, Wednesday. That's the 15th, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, sorry, I'm out that day. I think we need to do this quite quickly, don't we?
If possible, yeah.
Right.
Let's see. After that, I'm not free again till Friday.
Oh, I see. Oh, dear.
Well, how about this afternoon?
Yes, that would be fine.
Can you make it at 4:15?
4:15, so 4:15. Yes, that's great. Your office is at the top of Salisbury Road, isn't it?
Yeah, at the top of that steep hill.
Yeah, OK, so that's 3:15 this afternoon.
No, we said 4:15, actually.
Oh, yes, 4:15. That's what I meant to say. Oh, dear, and it's only Monday.
Don't worry. It'll be good to see you.
Track 17.
So, you've been named as one of the best companies in Europe to work for. Why do you think this is?
Well, I think there are a number of reasons, but I think one of the main reasons is that people are very much involved in processes related to the job and the workplace, and we seldom do anything until we have talked about it. And people are involved in it at all levels in our organisation. Also, we have a very high degree of information and dialogue with people. For example, we have staff meetings every day where top management and employees share information about business and everyday life. So that's where people really have a possibility to hear thoughts and ideas from everybody who's involved.
And so do you think that this information sharing is the most important way of making a company successful and making people work together well as a team?
I think it's a very important thing to do, and it's something that people here attach very high importance to when they talk about their workplace, because usually companies send emails around and do things like that rather than speak face to face.
Yes.
But we find it very important to look at each other every day and share our thoughts and missions and practical things too.
Yeah, I think a lot of companies pay lip service to this. They say they do it, but it's quite unusual, isn't it, to find companies that really do take this sort of team building and meeting face to face very seriously.
Well, we take it very seriously, actually. Everybody meets in their teams for a few minutes every morning, and every Monday we have a team meeting that lasts maybe half an hour. And there are other face-to-face meetings besides these, of course.
Track 18.
And what about rewards and other ways of motivating staff? What systems of reward and motivation do you have for employees?
Well, we don't really have a system. I think it's a part of the company's spirit that we don't want systems. Rather, we just do things in a way that feels right, and we don't put in systems. And we don't put people in systems and boxes. But of course we want to reward a special effort or a special result. But usually we do it as a group and seldom just as one person. We think it's important to have a we spirit instead of a me spirit.
Okay.
So at staff meetings, we celebrate and applaud a good effort or good results of a group or a team. And as a company, we reward all the employees when we reach a certain goal.
Oh, right.
For example, we might pay for everyone to go for a meal or get a few boxes of chocolates for everyone. Or perhaps put in an extra amount of money on the next month's paycheck or something like that. But that would be for everyone when we reach something together.
Right. So everything shared amongst the people involved. Do you think this is the main way that you treat your employees better than a lot of other companies? Is this the main way, or are there other ways in which you think your employees are treated better than they are in other companies?
Well, I think that the number one reason is that we see people as whole people and try to treat everyone as a special person with personal needs, depending on where in life they are.
Right.
So things like work hours and skills and dreams are discussed several times a year with everyone. And also we listen a lot and we act when we finish listening.
Right. That's the most important part, isn't it?
Yes, but also I think the positive spirit we have is very important. It's a kind of a family spirit, and we take care of each other and we give everyone the possibility of modelling a dream job and also give career possibilities if that's what they're looking for.
Track 19.
Do people ever abuse the system at all, though? I mean, do people ever take advantage of this attitude to work? Or have you never had problems with that?
Well, I think that our way of seeing people as a whole person is based on trust. And, of course, you can always abuse that. But I think employees are very focused on keeping it that way and not abusing it. Because if we find that people abuse it, we'll just stop having these good things, and nobody wants that to stop.
No, of course not.
But if we see people abusing the system, we take action and give them a warning. We have 3 important rules that you have to keep. The first one is don't talk behind anyone's back. The next one is don't talk badly about our company. Go to the right person instead. And the third one is don't steal, and this means don't steal time, money or products. And that's something we look very hard at. But we very, very rarely find that people abuse those rules.
Okay.
But we try not to have too many rules, so it's easy to follow those rules that we have.
Well, yes, because, like you said, everyone's an individual. So you have to be flexible to a certain extent, don't you? But obviously there have to be a few rules in place too.
Exactly.
If I asked one of your employees why they like working for your company, what do you think they would say? What do you think they would like most about working for this company?
Well, actually it has to do with pride in the company and being proud of their own contribution to our success.
Right.
Of course, we ask people every now and then what it is that they find attractive about the workplace. And many people say, I am so proud of the company. I'm proud of what I can do. And I feel that I'm important and the company couldn't do it without me. And that's very important, I think. And that's why we are considered one of Europe's best workplaces. And also the positive spirit, the family-like spirit, it's something people dream about having in their work life.
Track 20.
Right, well, let's go through it step by step as we did before.
Okay.
Just before we start this, have you any particular things you want to raise?
No, I don't think so.
OK, so looking at your achievement objectives from the last assessment, the first thing is evidence of achievements since the last time.
Track 21.
Well, the first thing on the list, in terms of what I felt I'd achieved to date in the time that I've been here, is the business link contract.
Yes.
At the last assessment, we said I was going to undertake responsibility for that.
OK.
And to get us through the standards tests and make sure that the company was fully compliant with the standards. And I think I did that really well.
Yeah.
There was a lot of work involved, and I managed all of that, although it wasn't my objective to be partially compliant at all. I wanted to be fully compliant first time round. Although some of the feedback I've had is that that was quite a high expectation and perhaps not a realistic one.
Yes.
Given that we had to be fully compliant in all 32 areas that we were assessed in. So the fact that we're fully compliant in 28 of the 32, I think, is still really excellent.
So do I.
Now, I'm not responsible for that because it's all of us as a team and as an organisation. But I sort of drove it through, I think.
You did, and congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Right, well, between now and next time, that's not going to be complete, is it?
Not before the next time, no.
No.
But I will have done some things.
That's right. But by the next review in January and the one after that in June, it'll be complete and finished with.
I hope so.
Good.
I hope that we can push for the assessment.
So at the next review, we could set that as a goal.
Yes.
Track 22.
Database systems and client folders. Well, this is a mixed responsibility, isn't it? You and Bob are both responsible.
In terms of management responsibility, I'm responsible for the database overall. Bob reports to me regarding his role updating the database.
OK.
But I have to say, I'm really, really frustrated about the use of that database.
Well, I think at the end of this review we should bring Bob in and just have a look at that. Because it's crucial that it's kept up to date, and I don't think it is being kept bang up to date at all.
It definitely isn't. Not at all. And, well, to be fair to Bob, I need to find the time now to sit down with him and look at the areas where it isn't, and what needs to be done to bring it up to date. But the frustration is that we shouldn't actually be in this position. When I handed it over to Bob, or when Bob accepted responsibility for the day-to-day running of it, it was good.
Right.
It worked.
OK.
It was up to date, and it's only ever useful while it's up to date.
That's right.
Now, we couldn't look at that and accurately pull off any figures about the contract at all. And we should be able to look at it
Instantly.
any moment, instantly, and know exactly where we are,
Right.
who we've got registered, what stage they're all at, when our last contact with them was. And it's chaos at the moment.
Track 23.
One way to retain staff is to give people challenging tasks. That way they always feel that they can develop themselves. And when we have our executive seminars for people at management level, some people just say, you know, we can't always offer our employees the performance opportunities they need. And companies are quite aware of that. And a new trend that has grown out of this is talent alliances. For example, Google and Procter & Gamble work closely together now, and when they can't offer their employees a new challenging position internally, they work with their partner and they send out this employee for 2-3 years to the other organization where they can actually be developed, and then they come back. Another important development in retaining staff is that companies have started to talk much more about individual and life cycle-oriented HR management, and the needs of employees change over time and over their life cycle. I mean, the young recruit from university has different needs to a parent of young children or someone whose children have left home. HR management has realized this in recent years and become much more individualized.
Track 24.
Well, you can't really define what short-term planning is and what long-term planning is. It's up to the individual company. However, short-term planning is something like maybe 3 months' time, 6 months' time. Long-term planning is 3 to 5 years. It depends on how you define your planning cycle. What we have observed is that there's a trend to shorten the planning cycle. I think companies have become much better in short-term planning, especially from what we've learned from the financial crisis. They need to have short-term regulations, reduced working hours, sabbaticals, and options for taking unpaid holiday. So you have all these kinds of measures implemented. A lot of them were implemented in the last crisis. And what we see here in Switzerland and also in Germany is that companies use these instruments quite regularly. They try not to release people if they don't have to, but they use these measures first, and because you can't really foresee how the crisis is going to develop, they are reluctant to let people go permanently.
Track 25.
Well, employer branding is saying what makes our company attractive. Not what makes our product attractive, but what makes our company attractive as a place of work. And obviously it's very closely linked to product branding because, for example, if you think of Porsche or Rolls-Royce, you think, oh, wow, great car, so it must be a great place to work. Whereas if you hear the cement industry, you think of cement as something that is quite boring. But if you work in a boring industry, you still have to make things attractive so that you get talented employees. I mean, it's not lying about how great it is, because this is the first thing that will fail when someone is on board. Employees who are already there will say, oh, look what they're doing in their branding campaign. That's not really the way we are. So the first thing is to find out who you really are and what makes you attractive, what the big cultural things are that make it so unique, and then transfer that message to the job market. However, many small companies in Switzerland and Germany can't really afford very expensive branding campaigns. So what they can do is ask themselves, what makes it unique to work for us compared with the big companies? But they have to make it interesting for potential candidates.
Track 26.
So what's your interest in the industry? Why are you attracted to a hotel career?
I've chosen to graduate in hotel and catering management. It's mainly because I think that this course is quite practical and useful. And I also know that the hotel industry in this country, the service industry, especially for the hotel industry, is going to be a booming industry. There are numerous hotels around the airport, and I think that to choose a career in the hotel industry will be a career which has good prospects.
That's correct.
And I also want to choose some kind of career which is service-oriented, which has direct contact with the guest. I can learn interpersonal skills, communication skills, and learn how to cooperate with other people. I think that's quite important.
Okay, good. What do you think would be your strong points, your strengths?
I'm enthusiastic. I'm always willing to help.
Okay.
And I'm happy to take on numerous responsibilities at any time. I always try my best to complete all tasks up to standard, and I'm friendly. I'm willing to help.
How would you handle, for example, a very angry guest at 7 o'clock in the morning who has just come off an 11-hour flight and has found out that his room won't be ready until 1 o'clock? What do you think you would do?
I think firstly I would calm the guest down or invite him to a private place because I wouldn't want other guests to hear him complaining. And after that, I would listen to his story about what happened, so that I have a general idea of the situation. Then if I could, I would try some methods to calm him down or compensate him for what he has encountered. And after that, I would ask the staff involved to investigate what really happened. Decide whose mistake it was.
Okay, so what position do you see yourself having in 5 years' time?
As I mentioned before, I'm interested in the front office. So maybe...
Yeah?
I think that in 5 years' time, I would like to be the assistant manager. That is my goal.
Track 27. Interview with Candidate 1.
So, have you ever looked at yourself, at your weaknesses?
Weaknesses?
Rather than your strengths?
Maybe. Actually, sometimes I lack confidence. Maybe when I need to make a decision, I need to get support from others.
Interview with Candidate 2.
Right, good, that's great. What would you say your strengths and weaknesses are?
Strengths and weaknesses. As I mentioned, I'm very serious about my work. That's my strength. But it means I always put pressure on my workmates and colleagues, which some people might think is a weakness.
Okay. When you say you always put pressure on them, what kind of pressure do you apply? Pressure to work harder or pressure to work faster?
I ask them to do their work on time. It must be on time.
Track 28. Interview with Candidate 1.
Do you have any questions that you would like to ask me? Anything that you would like to know?
I would like to ask if I will have the opportunity to work in the back of the house, like in the Human Resources Department.
I'm afraid it doesn't say this in the advertisement. I'd put you in the front office or in food and beverage. We would not put you in an administration department such as human resources because we would like the trainees to concentrate more on the operation side, if you like. Any other questions that you want to ask me?
I would like to know what the hotel's attitude or your attitude is towards the trainee. What expectations do you have of the trainees?
Okay, now what we expect from the trainee is very basic. Well, if you are supposed to report for duty, then we expect you to be there on time. Okay, let's say your working hours are from 9 to 5:30. Then of course I would like you to report for duty prior to the working hour. Let's say 5 to 10 minutes at least.
Okay.
Interview with Candidate 2.
Do you have any questions for me about the work or areas that you really want to concentrate on?
I want to ask if I would have any chance to work as a bartender or do something in the bar.
Okay, if you actually want to work as a bartender, we can refer you to Human Resources and they will get in contact with the beverage department. Because in this hotel, the beverage department is in charge of the bar and not the front office.
Track 29.
Okay, right. So, first of all, can you tell me why organizations need structures?
Because of the division of labor. Let's have an example. You start a business of your own, a pizza restaurant. At first, you're responsible for everything. You are the cook plus waiter, you are cashier plus you're doing the dishwashing. Your pizza restaurant is a huge success. Your business grows, you need help. So what happens? You look for a waiter who does nothing else but serve the pizzas to your guests. Second, you look for a cashier. You look for someone who helps you by cooking the pizzas. So your business grows. You have more people who are each specialized in a special task, and someone has to organize all these people working in your business. Well, companies need a structure. You have to organize the labor within your company.
Track 30. Functional structure.
The most common form of organization is the functional or line structure. It's used for many startups and used in old and traditional companies. You have some functions within your company which are concentrated within one department, and the department does nothing else but these functions. For example, you have a department which is responsible for human resource management, nothing else. So within the functional or line structure, you have departments according to functions. And the larger a company gets, the more specialized departments will become. This system has a very clear structure with very clear levels of hierarchy where everybody knows who is reporting to who.
Divisional structure.
Right. So that's not the only form of organizational structure that's possible then?
No. We have another one which is very important, but only for large companies or for internationally acting companies. And that is the divisional structure. Large organizations face the problem that they have no specific area with responsibility for a customer or for a region or for a product. So, with the divisional structure, big companies can still have their functional structure, but they can organize this structure into regions. Let's use an example. A company has responsibility for 3 geographical areas: the Americas, Europe, Middle East and Africa, and Asia. And within these regional responsibilities for areas, there is also responsibility for products, customers, and services. The huge disadvantage of this kind of structure is that you have different functions 3 times. There are 3 R&D departments and 3 lots of machinery, highly qualified labor and staff for each of the 3 geographical areas. But this delegation of responsibility for the areas gives more flexibility so that you can quickly react to changes in that area of the world because you have the channels of communication to do so.
Matrix structure.
OK. And how does a matrix structure fit in then?
Well, the matrix is the most complicated out of these 3 basic organizational structures. You find it in large international companies. The matrix structure tries to combine the advantages of a functional or line structure with the advantages of a divisional structure. Within a matrix structure, you have different lines of responsibility which you have to bring together. You have one line of responsibility which is always a functional line. This means you have someone who is globally responsible for marketing or someone who is globally responsible for operations. On the other hand, you might have responsibilities for products. So one person has global responsibility for a specific product or range of products, Group A or Group B. The problem with a matrix structure is that maybe, and this is a worst case, you have conflicts of interest. For example, the head of global marketing thinks one global brand appearance and one common slogan is needed, so that customers all over the world will recognize the product. However, the manager responsible for product group A feels the product is so special that a special marketing approach is needed. The person responsible for marketing product group A is then unclear about the exact chain of command and is not sure how to satisfy these demands. So there are different conflicting interests, and this person has to report to 2 people and balance conflicting demands. That's a huge disadvantage of the matrix structure.
Track 31.
So this week you need to sort of find out who's who. Who haven't you met? Who have you met?
I've met Rachel.
Phil?
Yes, in fact, I met all the guys here briefly.
Have you met everyone upstairs?
I think I've met nearly everybody.
OK. Have you had a tour around with Vincent?
Yeah.
OK. So what you're doing this week is finding out where PDFs are, where databases sit, how Modulus works, how to enter the customer details, the real practicalities of the job.
Wonderful.
And there's one here that I want to talk about briefly, which is a transit van requirement that I'm working on. I'll work on that with you.
OK. Obviously, I'm keen to get going as soon as possible, and I'm not afraid of being thrown in at the deep end. As I understand it, there's a fair amount of sort of business to be getting on with.
Yeah.
But what I'm unsure about at the moment is obviously being on a new business side of things. I'm really keen to get proactive.
Yeah, good.
Do you want me to start liaising with marketing now?
Yes.
So that we can get a mail shot going out next week and I start making some phone calls. Do you want me to do 100 companies a day or 150? Whatever is reasonable to get through in a day or 2.
It's not about doing 300 calls a day and going crazy.
No.
It's just working smarter. Doing 30 calls and having 10 action points from those.
Absolutely.
OK. Now, a lot of the data, it's about the quality of the data and the information.
That's the key, yes.
Modulus is a key to that.
Right.
OK. There are tools. You can go into Modulus and search for those companies who haven't placed any business with us at all.
OK.
Those that have never been contacted, etc., etc.
Absolutely.
And I will run through that with you and show you that.
Track 32.
Well, firstly, the market started nearly 33 years ago. And initially it was quite unfocused. The idea came about from the Michael Mount Waldorf School. The school had always had a policy of fundraising by using the skills they had in the community, and that is how the idea of a market started. There were some farmers, crafters, and people who had products to sell. The school had a venue and a need for funds, and effectively it started with people bringing their goods to the school and selling them. And it just grew from there. Then, about 20 years ago, they needed to start becoming more formal as they realised they were onto a good thing and that it needed sets of standards and a management team. And they started employing people full-time to operate and run the business. And then, about 7 or 8 years ago, it needed more changes. That's the time that I was appointed as Chief Operations Officer. Market research was then done, consultants were appointed, and it was restructured then along more, well, not corporate lines, but with more of a clearly defined management team to be part of the agent of change in the process.
Track 33.
Do you think that timing played a role? Was it a good time for the business to change in this way, or was it just that the business had grown so much?
Well, there are a few things to look at if you look at the South African scenario and the growth and changes in the country. And in addition, if you go back about 7 or 8 years, the people in this area changed quite a bit. The market was very reliant on what is now an expatriate community. People from other countries who were working here in South Africa, who lived in this area, and the market had to adjust itself to the realities of the economic situation in the country and also the change of clientele. And then thirdly, the awareness of something like organics. As you would know, in Europe, it's been around for 30, 40 years, but it's only been in the last decade that it gained consumer awareness here. And the market had to adjust according to that. So I think there was a mix of external and internal pressures, market pressures that got it to the point where it had to adjust.
How much experience had the founders of the organisation had in this branch of business?
I think when they started, nobody had real knowledge and experience of running a business. It was literally a thing that they had to learn, and then later on appoint people with the right skill set.
Track 34.
What happened after the restructuring programme 8 years ago?
After the restructuring, we hit a period of growth and everything was going well, but we ran into some problems.
And what were they?
You see, this is not a typical business. It is operated by a trust, which is still one of the main fundraisers for this community. The market consists of maybe 140, 150 traders who are each individual entrepreneurs. So managing the system, you're not managing a corporate environment where everybody's working towards a common vision. You're working with individual entrepreneurs who have chosen to be out of the mainstream. So dealing with that and keeping those people satisfied, happy, productive and positive makes it very challenging. And part of the job is not just changing the marketing focus and the branding and that kind of thing, but when I came in, we had to establish relationships with people. So a lot of it was people management more than probably in other businesses. You know, it was literally getting people to think differently, getting people to regain their trust and positivity about the place, and getting that to spill over back into the customer base. So there was a lot of relationship building, and that was quite problematic.
You said that you had to regain trust. Well, why had trust been lost?
There was the feeling that they weren't being heard, that there was a top-down approach on decisions. There was the feeling that upper management was just looking at their own bottom line and not really looking at addressing the concerns of the people who were making the money. The stallholders felt that they weren't being listened to and that if they were just given a chance, they could make a difference to their business.
So, what did you do?
The first 6 months, I just walked around the market and spoke to the stallholders to establish what their viewpoint was, and then looked at what could be done to address some of their concerns and move it forward. So that was one part of it. The other part of it was a definite need to create the right tools for the job and spend time and money on infrastructure. But that was secondary to literally talking to people and letting anybody have their say in the management structure, which is very challenging.
What changes have there been in the country as a whole, and what future developments do you see?
Well, we can see a need for small village markets like Bryanston. We are more of a lifestyle business than the faceless malls. Many big retailers have been successful in South Africa, and they will continue to be so. However, the importance of organics has also increased, and there has been a growth in the number of organic markets. We see the organic markets as both competitors but also partners who are helping to spread the message of an alternative to the big supermarkets.
Track 35.
Have you found a place to move to yet? That was under discussion last time we were down.
Well, all that side of it is actually signed and sealed now.
Right.
Because we were originally going to move into a purpose-built factory.
Yeah.
Because we were originally going to be doing all the things that we currently do.
Right.
Like assemble all the mopeds and so on, which we're not going to do anymore.
Oh.
And the consequence of that is that we shall cease manufacturing at the end of this year. As a result of that, about 300 jobs will actually go.
Right.
So that will be all the people who actually work within the factory and the warehouse here.
Yeah.
With the exception of probably about 25 distribution centre staff.
Okay.
Track 36.
Right, thanks for coming. Nice to see you all again. I think to some extent you know what today's about and what the 3 days are about, but what I'll also do is to actually start it off with this meeting, probably for about an hour or an hour and a quarter.
Right.
Just to refresh your memories of what we were going to do, to let you know where we are with things that we've managed to do up to now, and to tell you the difficulties that we currently have and where we actually need the assistance. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Now, I think what I want to do today is firstly to go through this memo and to agree on the objectives. I want to take you through the progress to date and confirm that what I've put in this document is correct. Okay.
Okay.
And then to review with you the outstanding work that we need to do and confirm the methodology that we thought we were going to adopt. And then also to get assistance from you in terms of defining the program specifications for the remaining programs and whatever assistance you can give us, during the 2 to 3 days that you are here. Okay. Because what we would like to be able to do as a minimum is to get all the specifications agreed, and if we can actually get those specifications converted into an extract program, then we'll be able to continue with our testing and so on.
Sounds good.
It needs to be ready for implementation at the end of the year, and then somewhere along the line, perhaps not necessarily today, I'd like to discuss with you the best way of doing an implementation. I'll tell you how I think I'm going to do it, and then if you give whatever criticism that you want to, and then we'll see where we go. Okay.
Track 37.
So, what are the functions of the supply chain? They are the following: receiving and filling customer requests, new product development, marketing, production operation, distribution, finance and customer services. Now, each stage in the supply chain is connected through the flows of materials, the products, information and funds. And it is important to remember that these flows often occur in both directions.
Track 38.
Now about the goals of the supply chain. The primary purpose of the supply chain is to maximize the overall value generated. The value a supply chain generates is the difference between what the final product is worth to the customer and the cost the supply chain incurs in fulfilling the customer request. It is known also as supply chain surplus, or also supply chain profitability. The supply chain surplus can be defined as the difference between the revenue generated from the customers and the overall cost across that supply chain. So, supply chain decisions have a large impact on the success or failure of each firm. because they significantly influence both the revenue generated and the costs incurred.
Track 39.
And now, moving on to the 3 key supply chain decision phases. Firstly, supply chain management requires many decisions relating to the flow of information, product, and funds. Each decision should be made to raise the supply chain surplus. The supply chain decision phases can be categorized as strategy, planning, and operations. The first phase is the supply chain strategy or the design decision. The strategic decisions are for the long term and are very expensive. They are the following: how to structure the supply chain, what the supply chain configuration will be, how to configure the supply chain, how resources will be allocated, what processes each stage will involve. The second phase is supply chain planning. The time frame here is 3 months to a year. The goal of planning is to maximize the supply chain surplus that can be generated. As a result of the planning phase, companies define a set of operating policies that short-term operations need to follow. Then, the third phase is the supply chain operation. The time frame here is on a weekly or daily basis, and during this phase, companies make decisions regarding an individual customer's order. The goals of the supply chain operations are to handle incoming customer orders, allocate production resources to meet individual orders, set a date by which an order is to be filled, set the mode and schedule of delivery.
Track 40.
So, Stefan, we've got 3 different orders. The question is, assuming it's the same delivery address, can we combine any of those orders?
Well, Nick, the general point is, if we receive different orders on different dates every week, this automatically creates a new order in our system. So if we have to combine them, that means we have to cancel one order. This makes a lot of work in terms of the scheduling process. So this would double our workload if we said, okay, we have to cancel one order and increase the next order, because they are on a different timeline.
You mean at the moment you've probably got 3 packing orders?
Yes.
It's probably all from the same bulk, yeah?
But they have different...
They have different packing order numbers, yeah? So they're in the packaging plan as 3 different orders at 3 different time points?
Yeah.
Track 41.
The question is, can you go into that first one and increase it to 2,000 and then cancel the next 2?
Yeah.
In terms of what that means, yes, it means extra work up front.
Yes.
But we will benefit from a better unit price. You would benefit from not having 3 different order numbers going through the system.
The general thing is that we have a routine process, which is already fixed in our system. If we have to change the order every week, this will lead to a lot more work. We can't just say, okay, this must be cancelled. We have to make an additional order that we have to put into the system.
We're not talking about making additional orders. We're saying increase 1 and delete 2.
Track 2.
Well, Kaizen is often understood as a procedure in improvement and efficiency. Kaizen is about changing things for the better, shortening operation time, improving quality, improving the operation environment. They are all Kaizen. The idea behind it is that the current state is not satisfactory, and it is necessary to improve cost and man-hour efficiency, taking ergonomics and safety into account. Consequently, this leads to an increase in motivation. It is beneficial for both operators and management.
Track 3.
Can you tell us a little generally about Isuzu and Kaizen?
Yes. We don't set a framework concerning Kaizen activities. This is partly because we don't have to, because there is a lot of motivation. But mainly the reason is that there is a lot of mutual competition, and that brings really excellent improvements. The real beginning of Kaizen and the start of improvement in important long-term company activities is in the fact that it is voluntary. Once a month, from all the suggestions made during the Kaizen workshops, one excellent idea is chosen for development. The company motivates workers in the Kaizen process and shows that these Kaizen activities are important because the judges and management visit and observe the actual sites where the continuous improvement is taking place.
Right. Can I ask you a little about how a Kaizen idea is put into practice? Can you just explain to me a little bit about that?
Yes, we have a team, a small team in each production line. We have maybe 20 different teams, and we have competitions every month.
Once a month?
Yes. It's a kind of an ideas system.
Okay.
So we award them once a month for the best Kaizen idea.
So you mean you have a competition once a month, and the team that comes up with the best idea to the particular problem wins a prize? I see.
So only the best Kaizen will expand all over the company. But there are so many different kinds of ideas in different lines and also different stages. That's part of the competition.
Right, yeah.
We don't standardize them.
Right, I see. Who chooses the problems? Is that your job? Do you choose?
No, their job. The people on the production line. You don't have to give them ideas. You don't order them. So it's very natural training.
So the teams on the line, they choose the particular idea or problem that they want to look at?
Yes.
I see.
Because they know the operation that is going on, not the managers. Sometimes we supply the tools or a more effective way to give the answers, but finding the answer to the problems around this, that is all up to the workers.
Track 4.
Right. Can I ask you a little about how a Kaizen idea is put into practice? Can you just explain to me a little bit about that?
Yes, we have a team, a small team in each production line. We have maybe 20 different teams, and we have competitions every month.
Once a month?
Yes. It's a kind of an ideas system.
Okay.
So we award them once a month for the best Kaizen idea.
So you mean you have a competition once a month, and the team that comes up with the best idea to the particular problem wins a prize? I see.
So only the best Kaizen will expand all over the company. But there are so many different kinds of ideas in different lines and also different stages. That's part of the competition.
Right, yes.
We don't standardize them.
Track 5.
Could you describe one project where Kaizen was used to improve quality? What results have you had?
Yes. Well, as you saw, we dramatically reduced the rate of defects in the quality in the manufacturing process. And we did this by using kits of delivery parts. The basic idea is that the operator can concentrate on a simplified operation which is free from defects.
That's very interesting. Can I ask you to explain a bit more in detail?
Well, there were difficulties in the mainline assembly for the operator. They had to choose the parts they needed, and that meant they had to think what kind of parts they needed, and they had to go and collect those parts. And on both sides of the production lines, there were shelves.
So they had to walk from one side of the line to the other to get the parts?
But now that we have introduced the kit delivery system, the operator doesn't have to choose anymore. They don't have to walk anymore, so they can just concentrate on assembling the parts properly.
So can you just explain a little bit more about what the team does, people working on the line? So before, they had to walk around and get different bits, and now the actual production line itself is moving, isn't it?
Yes. Before we introduced the kit delivery system, there was a kind of sheet, an overview of typed data of the vehicle in front of the worker.
Typed data?
Yes, like an option sheet.
Okay.
Showing what kind of parts there were. It was all written down alphabetically in a kind of color code with symbols. But the workers had to think. They had to remember the symbols. They had to remember the symbol of the part they wanted. Well, it was very stressful for the operators. That's why all the new employees had to be trained for more than 2 weeks before they could work on the production line. And as you know, we make more than 1,300 different types of vehicle at any one time. So that was a very stressful business for the operator. After we introduced the kit delivery system, the workers had only the parts for one...
Only for one truck, one vehicle?
Only for one vehicle and only for one stage of the assembly.
Right.
So they don't have to think and choose which part.
Right.
Track 6.
So it really is an exciting time. But we've got to get through things quickly today. I want to get finished by 11 if we can. So we'll really quickly go through the key points. Julie, can you just go through yours?
OK. Playtime have ordered some mats for use with that inflatable play area. It's self-explanatory on there.
Right.
Finley have ordered seat foam for train seats, which a train company is actually paying for, so they've finally committed to this.
Excellent. That's great news.
Things are going OK.
Great news.
Do you want the new contacts?
Yes, please.
The first one, Promise Furniture, they make office seating. The guy knew Pan Foam as a manufacturer of PVC foam from years back when he was with another firm.
Good.
Next one, Henry Treeside. They do mainly children's products, but they don't manufacture anything. They just develop it all and they subcontract it out.
Right.
The only other thing to mention, I think, is First Schooling, who've dropped our mats out of the catalogue after only 12 months. Just cost-cutting. They go for cheap and cheerful, and I said, you can't compare our mats. And she's saying, at this stage, we just want something cheaper.
Right. Fair enough.
So that's where we're up to.
OK, great. Thanks, Julie. Some promising-looking things there. Chloe.
Track 7.
Schmidt and Müller are a German company. They manufacture laptop cases. They've got a new owner there. He's only been there 12 months, and he said they'd only just recently had an inquiry for padded laptop cases. But what worried me is he said he had difficulty finding a PVC foam supplier, which makes me think we should have our German brochure and our French brochure scanned onto the website, so there's a link. At the moment,
I thought we were already doing that, weren't we?
It's in English only, and if you put in German...
We can send the brochure out electronically in other languages if people request it.
We don't even have to do a whole website thing. We could just scan in the brochures we've got in German and French and whatever, Italian and then just put it as a link so you don't have to work on a whole new website.
Just put a flag and someone will click on the flag.
Oh, yes, because a number of websites, you just choose your language and... Yeah, can you sort that out, Eddie?
Track 8.
Who would you say is the main target market for recycled toilet paper and kitchen rolls in Italy?
Oh, in Italy, an obvious target for us are the customers who have a lifestyle and values in line with the environment and who care about ecological issues. But this target is a niche.
A niche?
Well, yes. But on the other hand, we have to say that our target is also the mass market, because we are selling a commodity product, not a computer or a mobile phone or something like this.
It's not a lifestyle product.
Exactly. What I mean is that everyone is potentially our target with recycled paper. What is the most important thing that we have to communicate and to show? We need to give the customers the same quality and the same prices for recycled paper products as they get with pure pulp.
Do you speak to consumers?
Oh, yes. We obviously do research to understand the level of quality that consumers need, absolutely. So for quality, the two main issues for toilet paper are the strength and the softness. For kitchen roll, it is the strength and the absorbency of the paper. The size of the roll is also important for both these products.
Track 9.
How does the price of the product influence sales?
Our market in Italy, but not only in Italy, is driven by price promotion, because we are talking about a commodity product. In the Italian market, about 40 or 50% of the total turnover is sold by price promotion. It's quite a lot.
Can you give us some examples of recent price promotions you have done?
Usually the best promotion is to cut the price by 20%, 30% or 40%. This kind of promotion gives fast results. But if we want to keep customers loyal, we have to try to give them information on the range of products and brand.
So customers are basically very price sensitive, would you say?
Oh, yes. Yes, but at the end of the day, I think the real strategic way to work in this market is to have the right prices, to sell the right volumes for the right profit margin.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, the risk is that you communicate a message of low quality.
What about promotion? What promotion channels do you use?
Well, there are lots. Sometimes we can improve sales with in-store promotions. For example, we can give a little leaflet to customers in the store to explain what our recycled paper is. And we can also talk about our products. We try to link in some future communication sometimes, for example, telling consumers to visit our website or to sign up for our newsletter.
Right.
We talk about lifestyle, ecological issues and things like that. Otherwise, we use traditional channels like magazine advertising. Sometimes these are niche magazines that are about healthy living and ecological issues.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes we also appear in the mainstream magazines in Italy.
Do you mean a type of public relations where you get positive press?
Exactly.
What other ways can you get your message across?
Well, packaging is also a very important channel for us.
Uh-huh.
Just imagine for a moment when you are in the supermarket and you're looking for toothpaste or shampoo. There is very little facing. But when you are in front of a shelf of toilet paper or kitchen roll, they are very big.
Mm-hmm.
So the facing and the packaging for the products are very, very important.
Yeah.
Because customer buying behavior is quite impulsive in this category, and we can capture their attention quickly.
Track 10.
Let's move on now to look at place or distribution. What are the main distribution channels that you use to get your products in front of the consumer?
Well, in Italy we have two different channels. We can divide the whole market into traditional channels and mass market channels.
Uh-huh.
The mass market channel is supermarkets and hypermarkets. The traditional channel is small shops or wholesalers.
Right.
And in Italy we have a lot of small shops and wholesalers, especially in central and southern Italy. When we want to launch new products, we have to first plan our distribution strategy very carefully. For the mass market, there are long negotiations and very structured action plans to develop.
Mm-hmm.
The traditional channel is, on the one hand, quite simple, but it is difficult to know if the products are always present and on the shelf in small shops.
Right.
It's completely different for mass market supermarket chains, where you can make a store check very easily.
Mm-hmm. Massimo, perhaps we can turn now to international marketing. You go to France a lot and understand the French market. How is it different to the Italian one?
The distribution is very different. In Italy, we have a lot of small supermarkets, for example. And in France, we have a lot of hypermarkets. About 1,500 hypermarkets, which cover about 90% of the market. In Italy, we have only 300 hypermarkets, which cover about 50% of the market.
Do you think there's much difference between the needs of French consumers compared to Italian ones?
Yes, absolutely. In France, toilet paper must have 3-ply, for example. It must be colored, not white. In Italy, colored paper, toilet paper, doesn't work.
Why is that? Why do you think the French go for coloured toilet paper and the Italians go for white?
Oh, for the French, the appearance of the product is more important than the quality.
Aha.
For example, if their room is yellow, they want to put yellow paper in it.
Track 11.
OK, we'll kick off. Good morning, everybody, and thanks very much for coming to Serco's preliminary results presentation this morning. Just start with a couple of points of admin. Can I ask you to turn off any mobile phones, please, because we're webcasting this morning onto the internet. It'll be up this afternoon. The presentation is about 45 minutes, and we've got about another 30 to 40 minutes for Q&A after that. The format for this morning's presentation is, after this introduction, Andrew will talk you through the financials, Chris will go through business performance, Bob will talk about Serco Science generally and NPL in particular, and I'll sum up at the end with a slight forward-looking position. Just turning to the financial results themselves, which you'll all have seen this morning, we're extremely pleased with the results as they stand.
Track 12.
Cars and trucks have become a major cause of social, health, economic, environmental and aesthetic problems in cities. They badly affect social relationships by making life on the street unpleasant. They deny younger children freedom and, as a result, stunt their development. Cars have become one of the leading causes of death in almost every nation, and the leading cause of death among males aged 15 to 44 worldwide. Pollution from car exhausts kills even more people than car crashes. Streets and car parking use huge amounts of land in cities, and keeping them in use is a huge cost for the economy. The automobile is the most resource-intensive means of transportation ever devised, and there will be serious energy shortages within a decade. Finally, cars spoil the city's beauty in many ways. Notice in old photographs how much more attractive our cities were a century ago. It's time to build more cities without cars and trucks. Venice, one of the two largest existing car-free cities, is an oasis of peace, despite being one of the densest urban areas in the world. Fez al-Bali, home to the largest car-free population on Earth, is a pleasant and convivial city, even though it is comparatively poor. What would happen if we designed cities without any cars? Would anyone want to live in such a city? Does it make social, economic, ecological, and aesthetic sense? Is there an effective and economical way to provide transport without using cars and trucks?
Track 13.
Well, the first question is, how does your customer relationship management fit with your philosophy of your business? How do you bring those two together?
I've tried to create a very deliberate concept of value-centered leadership and value-centered business operations. This simply means that we as a company need to identify what we care deeply about, and that is what we value. And in the case of Rambler's Way, it is a very fine, unusual product made of wool where superior quality and a unique experience have been achieved.
Right.
Secondly, it is a value that we have used American labor and American sheep, which has created an added value to the product. We operate with a very low carbon footprint. We are sourcing locally, making it locally, and being as mindful as we can about the cost to the environment with our business practices and our operating behavior.
Okay.
We have other values, such as providing personal choice for consumers, so there is a large range of sizes for them to choose from. And then being sure that we are part of our community by giving back 10% of our profits to nonprofits that we think relate to the same values that we have.
Track 14.
So you would say, in a way, your customer relationship management is about communicating your values to your customer.
Yes. If you go to our website, you'll see that our beliefs and our values are very evident there, and then we use those values to operate the business. They're not there to cite as ideals. They're there to help us be reminded that this is how we are going to build strategy and solve problems, as well as maintaining a relationship with the consumer that might be buying online, or a retail store owner or their customer.
Okay, yep.
So our values are the very core of how we think about the customer. We have a policy of free return if somebody doesn't like it or it's the wrong size. We don't ask questions or judge them for things. We answer all correspondence. We take a consumer's feedback very seriously. I personally answer the more difficult consumer questions. I am transparent about what we do, where we do it, how we do it, and why we do it when I am answering questions. I would say that the values that we have are at the heart of how we devise a customer relationship for our program.
And you can then communicate that to your customers?
Yes. We answer questions directly. We give them clear answers. And some of them are not easy. When you have a principle or a value as we do, then you have to break that down into the details of what it costs to make that happen. And that is where the work comes.
Yes.
For example, when I was talking to textile manufacturing companies and looking for the right partners, I was not only looking for the capacity to do the manufacturing, but I was looking for responsible manufacturing practices. So it took some time, but I found one. And I asked to see their waste treatment facilities, and they were very proud to show me their waste treatment, because these were companies that were managed by men and women of integrity. And they had done the responsible work years ago to spend the money on the kind of waste facilities as part of their overall sense of ethics, making sure the water is clear of pollutants before it is put back in the river.
Track 15.
In CRM, there are moments of truth where there is an encounter with a customer which causes a customer to form either a positive or a negative opinion. I was wondering if you could think of some moment of truth like that, perhaps even a negative one.
Yes, I have had a couple of different instances. There was one instance where someone wrote a very biting criticism about the price of a product, a t-shirt.
This was someone who had purchased something?
He had not purchased. He had gone online, looked, was interested, saw the price, and wrote a very harsh letter to us.
Right.
And those are the kinds of things where you could just say, well, look, let it go. But I decided to engage him and said we appreciated him letting us know about his perception and experience. I said, we make a quality product, and just so you know, that is not just a phrase that we are using. Here are the different steps we have to take to be sure that the experience of this product is of a very special and high quality. And I walked him through the steps, and he wrote back. He said, I just didn't know so much went into it. The more I realized what you put into it, I can understand why. I said, well, would you like to try one? He said, yes, I'd love to try one. So I sent him a free shirt, and he fell in love with it, and then asked if he could write a letter, a testimonial for us. And I said, certainly, by all means.
Wow.
So he completely turned around. So if you engage someone, no matter how nasty they were being, you win people over if you are honest, and you are just trying to communicate straightforwardly.
Track 16.
Right, okay. So what did you think about the outdoor event?
It was very good, I think.
I thought it was excellent, actually. I think we all did really well.
Yeah, definitely.
And we did it all without bringing in other organizations.
All the feedback was very positive.
Yes, it was.
And lots of people were asking if we were going to do it again.
Right.
Yes, and I think another thing that it possibly did was it showed people things they hadn't thought about before.
I think that was a good move because one lady said, oh, this is nice. We've not been down here before. We come up here and look at the lake all the time, but I haven't seen this bit.
Amazing.
I think it was really good.
I think it was brilliant all around.
I think they really enjoyed it.
I did as well, actually.
Track 17.
Okay, good.
Plenty of information there, then.
That's what we wanted and that's what we've got, so it's fine.
Okay.
So, why don't I have a chat with Luke tomorrow and then have a chat with you?
Okay.
Oh, sorry, no, it'll be Friday actually because he's away tomorrow.
Well, that's all right.
Then we'll see what happens.
Wonderful.
Excellent, good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Track 18.
Why do companies need these statements?
Company statements are prepared annually or twice a year. They are there to reflect the work of the company within specific periods of time. The company prepares these statements for internal use by the company itself and also for external users. The top management and the shareholders of the company use the statements to evaluate its performance over a certain period of time. Management can see how the company has performed in the current period and in the previous periods, and see if it has to find ways to improve or increase its performance, or sometimes solve certain company problems, if they are visible through the financial statements. Shareholders, at the same time, can spot positive or negative trends in the company. They make a different sort of analysis. They look at the statements in a different way to the management in order to make future investment decisions, whether to buy more shares in the company or whether they have to sell shares. External users of the company financial statements are possible future investors as well as tax authorities and other government regulatory bodies that check the finances depending on the sphere of activity in which the company operates.
Track 19.
Have a look at these statements we have here. What do the figures on these statements tell you?
Well, I would say that the company is performing really well. As you see, it is actually making a loss, but the losses are less than in the previous period. Another positive factor is that sales are increasing, so that is good. The increasing cost of sales would tell me that the company is quite dependent on marketing and advertising and sales. Also, if you look at the balance sheet, there is a significant increase in trademarks, patents and development costs, so that probably shows that the company is selling a unique kind of product. And for the future, I would assume that this part of the balance sheet would actually rise. The company is developing. I would say it is not an old company, and it is growing.
But are there any figures that look a bit strange to you, or look a bit different to what you'd expect to see?
Well, yes. As I said, overall the company looks quite healthy. It is making losses, but something that leaps off the page at me would be in the income statement there is a decrease in administrative expenses by almost more than 2 million, from 16 million to 13 or nearly 14 million. Normally, in this case, I wouldn't expect administrative expenses to decrease because the company seems to be growing. Its losses are lower than the previous period. The sales have increased and we see growth in this company. In such cases, the administrative expenses would be expected to rise, and here they have decreased. The only thing that can justify that is probably the company is trying to cut their expenses, all kinds of expenses, especially administrative. And this is probably connected with the wider economic situation rather than how the company is performing. You know, the company starts paying fewer bonuses to the employees. It spends less money on corporate events and so on. It can only be justified by that.
Track 20.
One of the challenges facing us today is how we can grow the business more quickly in a very difficult environment. Really, we all know that the push at the moment is to sell to our existing customers. I don't know if you're aware that there was a survey done by TDS, a group of consultants, early this year, which suggests that we salespeople spend 11% of our time in front of the customer. We've worked hard to increase that number, and it came out at 10% after a 6-month thorough review. But we've never published that. Clearly, that's 1/10 of our time. So imagine a 2-week period for an account manager. He's in front of the customer one of those days, which is appalling, really. We need our account managers out in the field far more often. Just to give you some of the key budget numbers for next year. At the moment, I've got 9 account managers and 2 heads of sales. Their total annual targets are currently at around £10 million worth of revenue, so that's our capability, if you like. And that number is in the budget as a key driver. The budget at the moment gives us revenue for next year of 10.74 million, so that's a growth of 55%. Hopefully, we've got some ideas of how we're going to deliver on these numbers next year.
Track 21.
So where do we go from here? We are not going to get our numbers by just doing the same things that we did this year. Some of these things are, well, all of these things, in fact, are what we need to be doing all across the sales force. It's not just what I'm doing. I haven't got that much imagination. This is what the whole of the sales force needs to be doing. And the first point is to focus on sales activity. And it's at the top for a reason, because that is a real key for us next year. The guys in this room are going to be pushed very hard to be out in front of the customer. They're going to be measured. If they aren't in front of the customer, they won't be able to sell. So we've got to get that 11% number up, and that's down to the account managers to get out there. But it's also down to the support staff as well. If we don't think differently about the way we do things, that 11% will go up to about 12%, and that's not enough.
Track 22. Conversation 1.
Hello?
Hello. Yes, can I speak to Liz Davids?
I'm afraid she's out of the office today. Can I put you through to someone else?
No, thanks. Can you take a message?
Yes, sure. Go ahead.
Can you ask her to call me back? It's Pietro Del Vecchio from Nettuno Finance. My number is 0254 963 201. I need to talk to her urgently about the meeting on the 13th of April.
OK, so that's 0254 963 201.
That's right. And can you ask her to call me before 8:15 this evening? Otherwise, I'll be on my mobile. That's 01718 451 205.
So that's 01718 451 205. And the topic is the meeting on the 13th of April.
Yes, thanks very much.
No problem. I'll pass on the message as soon as possible.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Conversation 2.
Hi, Joe. Everything okay?
I think so. Not sure about this order, though. The figures don't seem right.
Oh.
Can you check it for me?
Sure. Let's see. That's 60 of item number BC/92-37A.
So that's 60 times €90.40.
No, €92.40.
So that makes €5,544.
OK, next one. 70 of item number BC/90-492. They cost €75. So the total there is €5,250. OK?
So the grand total is...
I make it 10,794.
Track 23.
It was just one of those eureka moments. I moved into a brand new house and I booked the telephone company to come in the morning, and they didn't arrive until late. And when they did arrive, I had to wait and watch them struggle to thread the cable through the cavity from the outside wall to the inside wall and through the house. So it was just, well, with me having a health and safety background, and I'm a person who likes solving problems, I just watched and I just saw this eureka moment.
Can I ask you something? You said you worked in health and safety before. Could you say something about your experience in that area?
Yes. When I left school, I worked as a laboratory technician, and the company asked me to develop a quality assurance system for the whole of the company. And health and safety factors were part of the course, so that background was always with me.
So once you'd had the idea, how did that then develop into a business?
At first, I thought that if the technician had a special tool for this problem, it would save him at least half an hour every time he had to do this work. And I calculated that if the technician was doing so many visits a day and wasting so much time, then I thought, wow, this is millions and millions of pounds they're wasting. And then I started thinking, well, where would I go if I had an idea? What do you do? So I did my searching on Google and began to understand that if it's a good invention, you need to have some protection in the form of patents.
Track 24.
How did you set about raising the finance?
Well, the first thing I did was I spoke to my local university at Hull and I asked the question, look, I've got an idea for a prototype. I can't afford even to buy the materials to make a prototype. Is there any way any of your technical departments could help me? And they said, well, you can actually apply for a small amount of government funding to get you to that first level. And I had to go through a process of being interviewed in front of 4 people and they accepted me and I was awarded £400.
Oh.
So that was enough money to have a basic search done on my patents, to understand the patent, the need for a patent and to use patent lawyers. And it did in fact give me the money and the time from the university to support me in making that non-working prototype. So there are always ways and means.
OK, but what happened next? When did you decide to invest a lot more time in this project? And what decisions did you have to make?
Right. There are many different choices to make. I would certainly advise people to hold on to the shares of their company, the equity of their company, as long as possible and as much of it as possible. I would try and do some trade-offs. You know, if I do that for you, could you do this for me? And the other person is happy and I'm happy and we've both got what we want. And not just on a temporary basis, but moving forward on a regular basis. Look for other finance, look for other funding. Don't be afraid to ask. The fact that you have got passion gives you the courage to ask that question. I would say try and get as much as you possibly can. If you need to give something away, make sure that it's for the long term. Otherwise you may regret it later. And if there's any way, take out a very low interest loan. You know, the banks are always there to help and support new businesses. So there are always easier ways than giving too much away of the equity of your business. You just got to think, how can I get what I'm after?
Track 25.
From your experience, what specific tips would you give to people making a pitch for the first time?
Think about what you want to say. Write down your business plan and pick out the key areas you know they will want to ask more questions about. Know your business, know your business plan, know the answers to the questions they're going to ask. Deliver it with confidence. And confidence comes from practicing. I practiced 100 times every single day for 6 weeks, and I knew it word perfect. I didn't leave anything to chance. So just be prepared. Deliver your pitch with confidence and never take criticism as a negative. Don't let criticism put you off, because you're assuming that people understand your business and how you want to take that business to market, to the next level. But people don't always understand. They haven't lived it and breathed it. You're the one with the passion and the energy, so you have to portray that to others. So never see it as a negative thing if people criticise or ask questions. They're looking for an opportunity to invest time and money.
Track 26. A.
Can you work out what the minimum number is?
B.
Do it by the next meeting.
C.
You couldn't do the documentation for Delstone, could you?
D.
You have to change the documentation.
E.
Could you give Marie a ring when you've got a moment?
F.
So, you just need to label the outside of the box.
Track 27.
He's got an export manual, is it? That's what it's called, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think he's got an old one somewhere, yes.
Yeah. But you see, he probably hasn't bought one for years either.
No.
That one that Bill had was way out of date.
Can we get a new one on CD or download it from the web?
Possibly.
Could you price it up and see how much it is, Kevin? I mean, we only need one.
They're about £80.
Can we have one electronic one and photocopy it?
I'm afraid it's about 5,000 pages, so probably not.
Well, how much is a disc or a download?
I don't know how much a disc is. A book is £80, so I guess that it will be about the same price, or cheaper.
Yeah.
We need to have a think about the best way to go. The bit that you're bothered about is the price increase. Fran, are you happy with this? 2.5% as of the 1st of January, and all quotes from now will go out to let people know that there'll be an increase, and we'll draft a letter and get it out as soon as possible.
Yes.
Can we get that letter out next week, Kevin?
Yeah.
Nothing else to do?
No. I'm just wondering, perhaps they can do it from here?
Yes. Could you draft the letter and then just get them to do the mail shot from here?
OK.
Track 28. Conversation 1.
Could you do me a favor?
Sure.
You couldn't do the documentation for Delstone, could you? I'm still struggling with these and I'd like to get it done.
Yes, OK.
Great, thanks. I'll bring the stuff in for you.
Conversation 2.
So you need to do a stock check every once in a while. All you need to do is set what your minimum levels are.
OK.
So you just need to label the outside of the box and say there should be at least 5 hard disks in this box.
Yes, but that doesn't work if some of those are new hard disks and some are old.
Then you need to throw all the old ones away or put them in separate boxes.
OK.
Track 29.
Could you tell me about the difference between non-profit and for-profit?
Well, in the for-profit sector, you have a product and you have consumers that are using the product. Then you have the scale. You have to decide if it can be expanded. So you have one company or one store here. Can you have 20 stores? Are people really interested in using it? What kind of marketing? And what kind of outreach are you going to do? And those are the same principles we have to use in the non-profit sector. Because in my case, a product could be training. A product could be seeing the change happen. We have 2 different groups of people. Consumers who are using the product, which means in our case what we call beneficiaries. They are utilizing the model and they are getting the benefit out of it. Then investors. So the company would have investors, shareholders, and in our case, donors could be seen as shareholders. Shareholders get benefits from the stocks and shares that they hold in the company, whereas in our case, the donors are getting the benefit of putting something back into society. So to my mind, it's a very similar kind of approach. The only thing is that the bottom line in the for-profit sector is money, and in the non-profit sector, it is social change.
Track 30.
How does your organisation plan its strategy?
Right. The one thing to understand is that we don't go in the hotspot of the conflict. We go into the area after a conflict, or where we think a conflict might happen. Where the rockets are flying or where there is tension, we don't necessarily go there. That's when we want to work with people. But the strategic work requires thinking about, why do we want to be in one particular place? What is it that we want to do? What is the environment there for us to exist and to do the work? Do we have the right kind of interest from the community? Because our focus is on working in the community. Do we have support for the kind of work we need to do? How soon will we be able to see the shifts? And it's not that we won't go if we don't see the changes right away, but the idea is to at least pay attention, to create a matrix and say, what is some of the potential for us to be working? So, for example, if we want to go to India and work there, who do we work with? Why do we want to work with them? Is there a local non-profit organization that will take our training and our model and then be able to utilize it? Because it doesn't help to go to some place, give one training session, and come out and go away. You won't see a change. You need to have an ongoing kind of connection. So part of the strategy is deciding why we will work in a particular place.
Who will support it? Who will carry it forward? What are the results that can potentially come out of it? So it's almost like an assessment of the scenario, both of the conflict as well as of the larger commitment from the government side or non-government side or from the funding side.
Track 31.
What kind of checking mechanisms would you say that you have to see whether your plans are being put into practice?
You create a plan on what needs to happen. This is where you want to go. And then you need to figure out, if you haven't done it, why you haven't done it, and why you weren't or aren't able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it is the role of the executive director or the president, but also of the board. You know, what are the measures? If I want to do 20 training sessions, 10 in India and 10 in Cambodia, did I get to that? But 20 training sessions would still be an output. It is not an outcome. So what is the outcome out of that? Is it how many people actually believed in this kind of work? And how do you measure it? Because our work, especially this kind of work, it's not fixed. It's very amorphous. It's not like building village wells or building a school, or it's not like sending 500 gifts to a school, because those numbers are measurable. World peace is very difficult to measure. And if things are remaining calm, is it because of your methodology, or is it because other things haven't happened? So, you know, how do you measure that you are really making a difference? You have to come up with very clear, measurable goals that you can say, this is what we want to do, and this is what we did.
Track 32.
The list I've just given you is all of the equipment complaints for this year, not including transport damage or factory faults. They're all from health clubs.
Right.
There's no schools on there.
What's the problem?
Mainly the gym mats splitting. In most of these cases, those heavy exercise machines are being used on the mats, and that's making them split.
Right.
We're not getting any complaints like this from schools.
Yeah?
It's because all these mats are being used day in, day out by adults and, well, you know, taking a lot of abuse.
Yeah.
But we'd like to see heavy-duty mats offered to our distributors to offer to the clubs.
Oh, yes.
So I propose that we send out heavy-duty ones to get them out for testing with the health clubs.
When you say heavy-duty, you just mean that they're thicker?
Yeah. The plan is hopefully that these heavier-duty mats will increase the lifespan of the mat and get rid of these problems. I've told distributors, don't sell the current standard ones to the clubs. Sell them these heavier-duty ones because they will last.
I think we need to put the emphasis onto the distributors.
Right.
Get 2 mats. The heavy-duty one is good for the clubs, and the standard one is okay for light use.
Track 33.
Right, I won't talk about Liverpool and the issue with too much space. That's not critical. What I do need to get a decision on today really is the marketing suite. I've only got limited information, so if you can help me out here.
Okay.
The marketing suite in York and Liverpool should capture pre-opening bookings and make people aware of the beauty salons. I think the question is, can we do it with the resources and money we have? Is that right?
The physical resources, time and money to do it.
Okay.
I think my biggest concern in Liverpool has been trying to get people up the stairs in the first place through what's essentially a building site into the room. To make sales, we have to put pressure on people. But if you look at the marketing suite for Tottenham, it's much more acceptable. It's in the warm and it's downstairs in the shop.
Well, I don't know. We could look at it.
Because when people open that door and simply see what's essentially an information room, I don't think that's going to entice and delight people.
You think you can deliver it downstairs?
I think we could deliver not a room, but we could deliver an environment where people actually felt an incentive to come and have a look. I think that's a big thing. Now, going upstairs to somewhere where there is a closed door approach, I think will actually switch quite a few people off rather than on. I think we can do something downstairs, but it has to be much more open and much less pressurised. And I think we could do something with bookings. We could certainly do something like give vouchers for the opening a week before.
Yeah, I think we may be able to get our message across more easily if we move to the ground floor. In the room itself, you have photos of what the salon looks like rather than just, information. So you can make it a lot neater. You can make it very appealing. And we can do it on the ground floor. And for me, that's one of the big things about having it downstairs.
Track 34.
What about Claire? How's her business course going?
Oh, she's enjoying it.
I was thinking, are you providing a sort of mentoring activity of some sort?
Well, I haven't formally set one up.
I think we could do with one.
Yeah.
So that we can monitor how she's doing and also get feedback from her as to what she's learning really. I think we need to support her to get the best out of the course for her.
Yeah.
Because she's not used to it.
No.
I think she'd make her own decisions about what she was doing rather than come to us for support.
Yeah, I think something else she might appreciate would be a bit of study skills support.
I think you and Claire should sort out an active mentoring programme so that there is a regular session at which she feeds back and you can identify what she's learnt, where she's progressing, and identify how you can support that process and help her get the best out of it.
Track 35.
How is it clear to an employee of the organisation that it's a learning organisation?
What you would see in a learning organisation, I would say, here would be several measures. What you would see is that the senior leadership are more inclusive in the planning process, that there would be a lot of visual materials like diagrams, posters, mind maps that would help us to understand why things are happening, the causes and effects, translated into what we need to do, and how we're going to apply that in any given situation. And I think there would be lots of signals to people that dialogue is welcome, that the use of social media would be reinforced to add to communication channels, that open systems and transparency add to and improve the company rather than secrecy. There would be a general willingness to have a more democratic organisation.
Track 36. Systems thinking.
Systems thinking is a discipline for mapping out and understanding the whole system. The first discipline of systems thinking is to understand the system's modelling. If you think of reading a newspaper, reading the headlines and how we translate these into causes, what we see as the reason, and effects, what we think is going to happen. So, quite often, we look at the headlines, we will see, for example, climate change is happening quickly, and our response will be, oh, I'd better sell my house, or I'd better go and live at the top of a hill. So we start from a couple of facts, like climate change is happening quickly, and then we go all the way to the top of the ladder and say, therefore, this must be happening. And really, systems thinking is a way of looking at how we came to those conclusions and actually say, well, maybe it isn't quite that cause that leads to that effect.
Personal mastery.
Personal mastery makes us ask ourselves, what is it that I deeply care about? And what impact do I want to have on this system? Basically, how I want to be involved in the system. I think we see more and more people, especially younger generations, who really want authentic behaviour in companies. What it means is that they want people to be as honest as they can and to show that they are well-intentioned about their purposes in what they are offering or selling. And of course, this is changing our understanding of what business really is. You see more and more social responsibility coming in, but it starts with people's personal mastery.
Mental models.
Mental models are the underlying ideas that influence how we think and act. So that when you have a conversation in organisation learning terms, when someone says, well, I've just developed this new chair, many people would start talking about the functions and the features of the chair. In organisational learning, you might say, let's start by understanding the chair and its purpose in the context of what it is that we do. You would go to some more fundamental questions about what it is that we are trying to understand in the system.
Shared vision.
Mental models and shared visions are closely connected because people don't easily understand other people's mental models. Let me give you an example of that. If I ask people to describe the graph of their life, their past, present and future, and they draw it on a piece of paper, I will quite often say, well, I know that the x-axis will be time, but what is the y-axis? And what you find is that when people draw the line of their life, some people will say that line is about happiness. Others will say it is about learning. Others will say it is about earning more money. So, shared vision is about getting people to understand that different people have different ways of looking at things.
Team learning.
The last one is about team learning. In the past, it has been noticed that teams haven't worked effectively. In teams, flaws in human behaviour arise. For example, in teams we often avoid conflict, so we will not say what we really believe we should say. In teams, we will also conform to a norm. If there are power dynamics in the team, we will quite often go to meet the needs of those who we feel are superior over us and can control us and have an impact on our lives potentially, or the resources that we need to get our work done. So team learning is about surfacing all of these issues and problems. When you do that, you start to really see that the team capability improves and is more effective.
Track 37.
My view of this meeting is that from a project point of view, we've got a pretty good picture now of what the final product is. Is that fair to say?
We're getting there, yeah.
Yeah? So, that's been one of the reasons why you've come to see us?
Yeah.
And then the second thing is that we want to confirm the costings, which include things like the logistics and all that type of thing. We can start that off, if not get most of the way through. And lastly, check where we are in terms of supply, to go over what we've ordered on the basis that the cranes should be ready around the time we need them. We've got, I think, about 40 on order.
That's what we wanted to find out as well, you know.
Brilliant. All right then.
That's pretty much it as far as an agenda goes.
That's all right. Good.
Track 38.
So, if I've read this correctly, what we're really saying here is that you want to sell this to us for £1,192. Is that right?
You can order in batches of 20.
OK.
That's our minimum sort of batch order.
All right. Well, our problem is we can't afford to pay £1,192, so straight away we have to have a look and say, what can we do to bring this price down? So, is there any opportunity in what we've got here to see if there's a way we can reduce it?
Oof. There are always engineering changes we can make. It depends how they'll affect the finished product.
Track 39.
Between now and February, we need to see how much everything is costing you to make, bearing in mind that you're happy to have a 10% net profit. We wouldn't want to affect your profitability at all. What we would want to understand is exactly how much it's costing you.
OK.
What we'll do is send our people over with all sorts of cost sheets. If I can, I'll get them to come along and you can complete those with them so that you understand how you break down the cost, how they work out the cost to produce these parts.
OK.
To give you a feeling about these things, most people are worried about it to start with, but the general consensus of the people I know in the trade who've used it is that they find it's to their benefit. At the end of the day, it guarantees you profitability.
We've no problems with it, but we don't want to make too much of an effort until we know what we're making. Because if we're spending hours costing up a part that's going to be put in the bin, it will be a waste of time.
I totally agree, but you know the way we work is we track our costs at various points in the project.
Right.
And what has happened is that you've come over target. With weight, we came in over target. We've addressed the weight, now we'll address the cost. Almost certainly you know we can do something that'll sort it out.
Yeah. Oh, I think so, yeah.
Track 40.
So, Stefan, we've got 3 different orders. The question is, assuming it's the same delivery address, can we combine any of those orders?
Well, Nick, the general point is, if we receive different orders on different dates every week, this automatically creates a new order in our system. So if we have to combine them, that means we have to cancel one order. This makes a lot of work in terms of the scheduling process. So this would double our workload if we said, okay, we have to cancel one order and increase the next order, because they are on a different timeline.
You mean at the moment you've probably got 3 packing orders?
Yes.
It's probably all from the same bulk, yeah?
But they have different...
They have different packing order numbers, yeah? So they're in the packaging plan as 3 different orders at 3 different time points?
Yeah.